just make up anything, call it Anglo-Saxon, because fine.
Yeah.
You got an instrument which got records going back for a couple of thousand years, doesn't even get a mention. That's the point.
That is the point.
What are we on to next then, Bob?
We're on to the Anglo-Saxon lyre next. This
There's
was
a saying in Wales that all Anglo-Saxons. Oh no, we'll go there. So we've done. So we've done bitching over bitumen, and we've argued the toss over coins, and now we're going to do lyres. Yeah, God, man, dear, this is rough, isn't it? Right, Anglo-Saxon lyres.
Yeah. So one of the things that they found in the actual grave in the tomb itself was the remains of an Anglo-Saxon lyre, which is what's shown on the left-hand side is the British Museum reconstruction of it.
Okay.
And it's quite an interesting instrument. You can see that it's got 6 strings. It's got a bridge down here. And this part of the body here is resonating. It's hollow, so it resonates.
It's like a guitar, then, really.
It's very much like a guitar, and there wasn't, as far as I can see from any of the reports, there wasn't a bow with it. Now, some of these lyres are actually plucked, but you can actually use a bow like a violin.
Yeah, because there's no fretboard, is there? Yeah, okay.
No. Now, it's the first time I've ever heard this kind of instrument referred to specifically as an Anglo-Saxon lyre. So I was
a bit surprised when I saw that come up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started looking into it, and there are 24 historic examples of an Anglo-Saxon lyre, dating from the 5th century to the 13th century.
Okay.
And if you start going down that list very quickly, the first one is the earliest one they found is Abingdon in England. Then you've got a couple there in Germany. You go down through England again.
Sorry, the one in blue at the top. I almost missed that. Abingdon. That's just outside Oxfordshire, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. It's not far from me. When over in Cirencester.
So hang on a second. It's saying it's Anglo-Saxons in Oxfordshire in the 5th century. Oops, sorry.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you are just by Oxford at Abingdon. You're within 10 miles of Oxford, and that's the earliest known example that they found.
That seems a long way. It seems a long way west for Anglo-Saxons in the 5th century, I'd have thought. But there we go.
Yeah, because that would be a 400 date. That would be. It'd have to be late 5th century. There wasn't any finer date than just 5th century I could find for that.
Well, even 499, I would suggest, is a bit early for an Anglo-Saxon to be in Oxfordshire. But there you go. That's for another day.
But then you go from there. You then go from the 5th century, i.e. the 400s. The next example they come up with is 580, which is the end of the 6th century. So there's quite a big, gap between the first one, the oldest one, if you like, and the second one, or second oldest one. Then you've got a whole tranche of them then in Germany, a few more in England, Morningthorpe, Taplow, again by Reading Way.
Yeah, Morningthorpe, I don't know where Morningthorpe is.
I don't know Morningthorpe.
I was looking up Snape. I saw that the other day. I know where Snape is.
Yeah, Snape is in Suffolk. It's just north of Sutton Hoo.
Yeah, it's on your Sutton Hoo map. That's right. I saw it.
And the reason Snape's there was because that is actually found in a boat burial as well.
Okay.
That's a boat burial at Snape, which, strange enough, Bruce Mitford was the one who wrote the report for that one. It was excavated in the 1870s. And all the finds and things like that, Rupert actually produced a report on it. And then the rest of them start being found. Once you get into the 7th and 8th century, they all seem to be then found in Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden.
Yeah, they spread out presumably if they've started in one place, perhaps.
You got one then in the 10th century in York, but by that time you're into the Viking period.
Yeah.
So.
But
And
also, they think the culture could have diffused from anywhere, but they couldn't over 100 years.
But it's interesting that you come back to the first one. This is why I put up this list, because I find it, like you, interesting that the very first one in the 5th century, i.e. in the 400s, was actually Abingdon, and that's a long way from Kent, where the the Saxons originally got their foothold. Yeah, interesting. Anyway. Wilson and Blackett.
Yeah, I've got it in there. That's all right then. I'll bite my tongue.
Wilson and Blackett have pointed out that the lyre has got very close similarities to the old Welsh instrument, the Crwth. And again, it's a similar kind of design. You've got you've got this structure here. You've got a sounding board, but the Welsh Crwth is what it's got is a fingerboard. Again, it's got 6 strings. But you've got a fingerboard, and also you've got these 2 holes
to hold the bridge.
Yeah, where the bridge is, you got 2 holes again. Here,
well, fretboard makes more sense because you can't make a tune without some sort of fretboard or something, can you?
Well, you pluck it like a harp,
Yeah, but it's only 6 notes, isn't it? It's not. The harp's got 50 strings or something.
Yeah, it's got six notes. Now, on the one, if we go back to, there's some crucial differences between the Anglo-Saxon lyre and the Welsh Crwth. One of them is look at the 6 strings. Go to the top.
Yeah.
You got all the pegs there, for the strings, and the strings are out in like a fan.
Yeah.
And you've got the bridge down here, but you haven't got any holes like you have on violins or guitars, to help with the resonance.
Or fretboard.
And you could pluck this, you could hold it between your legs and play it like a harp, or you could play it with a bow. But if you go to the Crwth, you then got one of the differences is, apart from the fingerboard, if you look at the fingerboard, what you've got is 4 strings. If you look at the top, you've got 6 pegs. These 2 strings here come down, down to the bottom, but they're not on the fingerboard.
No, well, you get modern guitars like that, don't you?
Yeah, well,
and violins like that.
And what you do when you play it is you're fingering on the 4 strings, and those other 2 strings are resonating,
like a bagpipe.
They give it a bit of a buzzy sound. It's got a very distinctive sound. I've actually, in my entire life, only ever seen one Crwth being played, and that was back in the late 1970s, when I was doing some mountaineering up in North Wales, and a young girl was playing one in a pub, and no one knew what it was. And how she was playing it, she was holding it against the body. She had a strap around the neck to support the end of it, holding it into a body and playing it with a bow. Now, I've seen since then, I've been on and watched a number of YouTube videos of people playing them, and people play them in different ways. So some of them put them between their legs and play it a bit like a viola. They'd stand it, they rest it on their knees, and then
sideways,
play it with bow going in front of them. Whereas this young girl that was playing it held it in. She held, she had a hand on this side here, pushed it against the chest, and then was playing it vertically, as opposed to on the knees, playing it horizontally, holding it away from you. So there are different ways of playing it.
Can I just ask, do we know how that Anglo-Saxon lyre reconstruction was made? I mean, where they got their clues from? Because all the wood and everything is perished, isn't it?
Oh, no, the wood was perished. And again, it's coming back to everything else. When they originally reconstructed it, they got it horribly wrong.
They're just guessing, aren't they?
Yeah. What they got when they first reconstructed it was they had actually cut it off. If you can see see on the left hand photo,
I can see the cursor. I mean, you cut it off an inch below the hollow.
Yeah, and they basically cut it off. So and they did that and thought it was just basically like a harp. But when they made it and tried to play it, there was no sound because it didn't have any resonance. There wasn't anything to amplify the sound
Yeah, the
of the
sound
thing.
box or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
So that's when they started delving into it and found out that they were coming up with these other examples.
They just guess
of the
things, haven't they?
Anglo-Saxon
They've just made these up. They're not based on anything.
So it's based on other ones that they found. You know,
Yeah,
those
but the other ones,
24
are any of them
24
in a workable condition when they found them? I mean, do they actually have the shape of the wood anywhere?
I would have to go into each one to look at that and find it.
Just one would be good, because that thing on the left to me looks like a guess.
You can certainly play it because you can buy modern reproductions of this and of the Anglo-Saxon Lyre. You can go out there and buy one today. You know, there are people making them, and the interesting thing on that is that a number of people are making them in Wales, and they are marketing them as Celtic lyres, and they've had legal action taken against them because they are not Anglo-Saxon. They are not Celtic lyres. There was no such thing as a Celtic lyre.
No.
There is only Anglo-Saxon lyres, and they've actually had to change their name and market it just as you know. And I think they market it as a lyre from Wales.
Gets worse, rather than just a crwth, which is an ancient Welsh instrument.
Yeah, and the crwth is an ancient Welsh instrument because they know that it existed before Roman times because there are descriptions of it, and it fell out of use in Wales around the late 1800s.
Yeah, when guitars took over, wasn't it?
Yeah,
this one on the left though. I'm more the Anglo-Saxon lyre. I mean, I'd have to do my own YouTube and see. I mean, what sort of tune can you play with that? Then it's got no fretboard. It's got no. Well, I can't even see any visible tuning mechanism, really.
You play it just like a harp. A harp.
Well, just 6 notes.
Yes. And the difference then is with the Welsh Crwth, you've only got 4 notes.
No, you got 4 strings. You got any number of notes because you've got the fretboard.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You can play a tune on the one on the one on the right. The one on the left, you can't play a tune.
Well, if you go on YouTube, you will find people playing tunes on the Anglo-Saxon lyre.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you play the Welsh Crwth, you've got that resonating sound, that buzzing sound.
Yes.
And when I've been traveling in places like Turkey and things like that, a lot of their local music has got that buzzing, resonating sound.
You do, yes.
And a lot of the sounds that you can get out of the Crwth sound very, to my ears, Turkish, because I've heard music played on similar instruments in Turkey, which sound very remarkably very similar. At the moment, the oldest, there are about 4 or 5 historic crwths. One is in St Fagans Museum, so if you want to go and look at one of the older examples of it, there's one there, but they only date back to probably the early 1700s, late 1600s. I mean, the two things are, there's a lot of similarity, and I can see where Wilson and Blackett are coming from, you know, so there is a lot of similarity, but again, this Anglo-Saxon lyre has got its roots and its history going back into Greece and into the Middle East again. You know, it's not a Scandinavian or a German invention. You know, it is coming.
Well, I'd like to look how they come up with the idea. I mean, if they've just, it seems unlikely to have such an ancient piece made out of wood that they would find. Like you said, when they did the Sutton Hoo one, they had a few guesses first and got it wrong, so it wouldn't make any sounds. It doesn't sound like it's based on any tangible fact, really.
No, but the Crwth was, if you go back here to the bottom here of this one, the bottom middle, the sound of the Crwth was described by medieval poet Gruffydd ap Howell as "in the hand 100 voices," referring to the rich sounds of 6 strings sounding simultaneously. Fantastic. So it was actually, it was described in medieval times. So we know that this you know, Welsh Crwth is the same instrument. And when you look at it again in side view, it's got this distinctive bend in it.
Yeah. Take the string.
And what's not evidence from the way that, you know, the photograph British Museum is, that's got that same bend in it as well. You know, it's not straight.
Right.
It's not a flat. All this is flat. You've got a bend in it, like you have on that Welsh lyre there. The top end of it is bent upwards, if you like.
So are there any medieval references or ancient references to Anglo-Saxons playing a lyre then? Is it? What the basis for that thinking is?
Yeah, there are, which is why it's termed an Anglo-Saxon lyre. I think it's actually mentioned in Beowulf.
In what, sorry?
In Beowulf.
Okay. Beowulf, would you think might go back to the Far East? Yeah, okay. Beowulf might be Gilgamesh.
The instrument itself has undoubtedly got Middle Eastern roots. That's where it originally came from. By what route it's got here, no one knows. But it is a remarkable similarity, and yet there's absolutely no reference in the British Museum to its similarity or even a passing resemblance to Welsh Crwth. It's just not mentioned. It's not mentioned at all.
Yeah. Even though there's loads of extant Crwths, and I'd be interested to know how old their oldest extant Anglo-Saxon lyre is. That'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
Do you know if they? I mean, were they in play at all, like in the 1700s or 1600s or anything like that?
What
the Anglo-Saxon lyre?
Yeah, I think they've gone right through. I think they have. I think you will find.
Oh, okay, well, that's fair enough then. Okay.
I mean, if you go back to the table that I found, they're up there to the 13th century in Norway, and it's called Anglo-Saxon lyre because it is fairly commonplace throughout the Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see exactly what they found. Where they just found the pegs and stuff.
Well, certainly in the Sutton Hoo one is they didn't find it looking like that. They just found the remnants of it, and I said,
yeah,
they cut it off here originally, just thinking it was a simple, almost like an oval lyre, but it had with a straight edge at the bottom. But they found that was unworkable and unplayable. So yeah, the bottom part of it again is a bit of a guesswork, and it's quite feasible that it could have had a fingerboard because again, you don't know. It's just as simple as that. You don't know.
That's very feasible. It could have been a Crwth, but there we go.
One of the issues that they had problems with was which made them scratch their heads, and obviously no one at the British Museum had seen a Welsh Crwth or even saw a drawing or knew what one was. I take it was they were looking at the top here and how close these tuning pegs were, and they were saying you can't get your fingers in there to tune it. So when they were doing the reconstruction, they said this has got to be wrong. We can't actually tune it.
Yeah.
Until some bright eye guy come up and said, look, you use a tuning key.
You just stick it in and twist it.
You place like a socket spanner over the top of it and do that with it. Because he's seen other instruments, where you tune like that, and they then understood that all right, they got all the tuning pegs in the right place, in the right location, in the right spacing. They were thinking there was something drastically wrong because nobody could actually twist them to tighten up the
tension right. Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Was it a Crwth or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical about this Anglo-Saxon lyre, but there we go.
Okay, right.
I'd like to find what the oldest extant one is. That would be interesting to find out.
Well, yeah, the oldest one I can find is that one in Amingdon, 5th century, 400.
Yeah, well, that's not Anglo-Saxon then, is it? But it's not extant either, is it? I mean, what condition were they found in? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, well, how do they know that it's an Anglo-Saxon lyre then?
Exactly, yeah. If they're just finding, I don't know what they'd find, really. What would they find? Some fittings, some wire, maybe, some strings?
I shall delve into the Amingdon one and see if I can come up with what they found.
Yes. Any of them, really. No, without going through it again, I mean, if they knew what, this struck me now, if they knew what an Anglo-Saxon lyre looked like and how you played it, then they would have had any problems making a replica. They obviously had no idea because they were guessing. They got it wrong the first time. It didn't make a sound, did it?
Exactly.
You've got a clue. It's a perfectly functioning working instrument which dates all the way back, not even considered. Drives you bonkers.
But you've got to again look at the situation. Is the archaeological evidence is all that suggests similar shaped instruments to the Crwth and the Anglo-Saxon lyre they were in
never
use
found it.
5,000 years ago.
But no one seems to have found an extant Anglo-Saxon lyre, the one they created. It's a flight of fantasy. Well, it is.
Case not proven is all I would say. You know, you would be let off. The judge would have to let you go because the jury wouldn't have been able to come to a decision.
Yeah. Just make up anything, call it Anglo-Saxon, because fine.
Yeah.
You got an instrument which got records going back for a couple of thousand years, doesn't even get a mention. That's the point.
That is the point. Anyway, we'll go on to the next subject.
Okay, so very interested in this look at this old instrument, and I've had a good few days since my first chat with Bob about it, and looking at the evidence, and I've read back through Wilson and Blackett's notes as well, and it really does trouble me, this idea of an Anglo-Saxon lyre, where this sort of invention, this idea has come from, really. So I'm not suggesting that Wikipedia is a great source of research. It certainly doesn't prove anything or give anything, but it's quite useful for giving an overview of mainstream consensus. So let's have a quick look at this, and you can see here Anglo-Saxon lyre is a plucked and strummed instrument. It's an ancient one. Listen to this bit. It's referenced in, we'll come on to illustrations and literature in a second. What's amazing, all knowledge of the instrument was forgotten until the archaeological excavation at Sutton Hoo in the 1930s revealed the remnants of a lyre. The Museum of London Archaeology describes the Anglo-Saxon lyre as the most important stringed instrument in the ancient world. Wow. And don't forget, all they found was some bits, and it's being reconstructed. As it goes on to describe here, the first one didn't... they tried to reconstruct it based on an Irish harp. It's amazing. Anything but Welsh will be attempted, or British. Like the British Museum, the joke is the last time you see the word British is on the sign as you walk through the door, because when you look at British instruments, the Crwth is not exactly obscure. You can find them, and they matches the evidence. It should at least be tried or referenced, okay? Now, this is where we get this wonderful circular argument, which I just love it when I saw it on Wikipedia. When they did the first Sutton Hoo one, they had no knowledge at all, okay? So so they put it together and came up with a guess, didn't work, had a few more goes. Yeah, this will do, we can kind of play it. You use your fingers as a block to try and create different notes. So go on YouTube, there's some quite clever players of it. So what happens then, when they find other potentially similar instruments across Germany or Scandinavia, they're like, great, we now know what this is. We didn't know before, or it's only been found since. Therefore, it must be the same as the one in Sutton Hoo, because they're the same sort of thing, and everything's Anglo-Saxon, right? So then you just rebuild in that way, and then so then of course when you go to the Sutton Hoo site to look at their vindication, you find that we know it right, because look, they got the same ones all over Germany and Scandinavia, even though the dates don't match up and everything. One thing I did notice on here as well, they were saying that the one they found was the early one, which Bob referred to, is from near Oxfordshire, was 450 AD, which is even earlier to be in the area. Right, so okay, so I want to go through all the names and all that kind of stuff. Similar to a violin or a guitar. I really want to get Arnie playing the violin version of the Crwth, and I'm thinking of getting a box guitar. I think that'd be great. Right, now what I want to bring up on here is, as I mentioned earlier, they do claim some Anglo-Saxon or medieval literary references. And ancient images. So you got this thing, the Vespasian Psalter, as it's known. It's supposed to be early 8th century. We could dispute that, but hey, that's for another video, okay? And the image is done here. It shows King David playing the lyre with court musicians. So again, we've got this Middle East biblical type connection, which ties in with the Welsh migrations. Whatever you like to think about it. And here you talk about the left hand being used to block strings. So, they could have gone with this and had a better idea. And then we got this one here, the Cassiodorus, another one. And again, I like this. The image of David playing is awkward and may have been drawn by an artist who had never seen the lyre actually being played. Now, there's interesting words to see, isn't it? So there we go. go and have yourself. Have a look on, go on YouTube and have a look at people playing both sets of instruments. It's quite fascinating. And then, you know, we put the evidence in front of you, and then it's up to you to decide. Is it a Saxon lyre, or is it possibly a Welsh Crwth? I mean, Crwth. It's up to you. All right, till the next time. Heddwch. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it informative. Britain's Hidden History Group has so much more going on our YouTube channel. The one you're watching now, there's a live stream, 8 o'clock UK time every Sunday. We speak to people like Wilson and Blackett, reprint their old books and help produce new ones. We go researching to the tops of mountains, all the way down to the bottoms of caves. Busily recording the books, you can listen to them as well, and looking at mysteries and working out what we're not being taught in schools and preserving it, because the physical and written evidence is rapidly disappearing. You can also find out how to read ancient writing and hieroglyphs using the Welsh language. It's amazing. There's a Facebook group where this is being discussed. Along with a website, you can buy the books and help us. Also, as you can see, there's now a Patreon page where just a few pounds a month will make all the difference in trying to keep the project going and preserve this history for future generations, and also to find out for ourselves what is going on, what is Britain's hidden history. So until the next time, Heddwch!